What's going on, everybody? We are live. We've just come off the end of one of the biggest national selections that we have. It's Sweden's Melfest, and the winner is Sara Diop with Make You Say, which was a huge surprise to all of us because we didn't even see her there, but somehow she is going to be the one that represents Sweden. And I'm going to go to you first, Harry. How do you feel about that? Oh, well, we can't hear you.
He is speechless.
Speechless, exactly. Okay, so obviously the real winner is Cornelia JAKOBS with "Hold Me Closer." It's been so interesting to see how this final was going to go, because we kept hearing from the Swedish public that Anders was the huge favorite, and a lot of people were really seeing his story, his personal story about, although he was like a producer and a songwriter, he had tremendous stage fright and he wasn't able to overcome that until now. So a lot of people were won over by that, and were expecting him to win the televote and win Melfest. It is, in fact, Cornelia JAKOBS, which seemed to be much more of the international favorite. I'll go to you, Twan. How do you feel about this win?
I'm just so happy because I love this song so much, and I think the fact that it is like very different from what Sweden usually sends to Eurovision is why I like it so much.
Yeah, and that seems to be what a lot of people are saying too. I'll try you again, Harry. Can you say something for us? We can't hear you. Maybe
you are muted.
Yeah, maybe try switching your settings, or if you log out, then I'll put you back in when you come back. But all right, we expect Harry to come back. Typical day on Eurovoxx. But absolutely, this seems to be the feeling that a lot of people have, is that this is quite a bit more of a personal story. She was involved with the songwriting of it, and you do really see a tremendous amount of emotion in her performance. So to me, it makes sense that this is resonating with so many people. A lot of people are really excited about the potential for this song at Eurovision. Twan, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think Sweden has quite a big chance of winning Eurovision, to be honest. The fact that the song is just so personal, and you can really see her emotion and hear her emotion through her voice, is what will make it stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. Harry, let's try you again. Can you
hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Excellent.
All right. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm over the moon. It's a fantastic winner. I'm obviously I missed a little bit, so I'm not sure if Twan's covered this, but I mean, this was obviously as you said, the international favorite. And look, we've had favorites in the past, like big favorites among the Eurovision community. Some have won, some have lost. For me, Cornelia JAKOBS' win feels a bit different, because from the start, it almost feels like Sweden themselves didn't anticipate this. Because if you look at the sort of heat she was in, the 7 artists, I would argue, based on artist alone, she was almost the least likely to even qualify. But then you get to the point where you hear the song, and it's so raw, so personal, and it's something that only Cornelia could have sung. And that's what most fans have been crying out for Sweden to send for ages. Because while people have liked their songs, they felt polished, they felt, like the perfect pop product. They haven't felt sort of that personal connection. This one people really have, and I'm so relieved that Cornelia will get to perform this in Turin.
Yeah, I can definitely echo those feelings. I'm quite relieved myself. Let's see what some of you are saying. Hello to Sarah O'Halloran once again. Joanne Johnson, hello to you as well. Verotesok, it is Cornelia who has won. Hello to Little John UK, another one for your team, you say. And also saying that Sweden dodged a bullet and found a silver one. I like that. Joanne Johnson is very pleased that Cornelia won. Safe. Hey guys, I just want to say this is exactly why competent and unbiased juries are necessary. The fact that Anders won the televote by 20 whole points is pretty crazy. I mean, as we said, there was a whole story behind this. That he was overcoming his stage fright, and people really resonated with that. And I mean, we'll talk about the song in more detail a little bit later. But I do agree that this is one of the ways that, as I've said before, one of the ways that you can have an artist who is just kind of riding off of their fame winning the whole thing is by having juries. So it's something for other selections to consider. Vincent F saying Cornelia is a great choice. EC Connor, Cornelia Queen, James Lewis, very, very happy with the results. Lucas saying, hi everyone, congrats Sweden, greetings from Poland. Christina, the right winner for Sweden. Michael Forbes, good evening everyone. Cornelia, definitely a worthy winner. My heart was in my mouth thinking Anders was going to pull it off. DJ Parody is delighted. EC Connor saying, being Irish, I will happily accept this as the entry which equals our winning record. Ah, very interesting. Because a lot of people have said that they see this winning Eurovision, which, I mean, obviously people were saying that from the time that this song was released, which is a pretty big statement to make when, early February, we only have so many songs, but it certainly says something about the strength of one song by itself. So, Twan, I know we kind of touched upon this already, but what do you think this says?
Well, the second time I saw the song, the first time I wasn't that grabbed because it was so different. The second time I watched it, I was like, okay, this is amazing. This has Eurovision winning potential. Sweden needs to send this. And mind you, this was before even all the Melodifestivalen songs were released, only the Heat 1 songs. So even then, at that very early stage, the fact that it says Eurovision winner already says a lot. And I think Sweden definitely made the right choice picking this.
And how do you feel about that, Harry?
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I probably would have said this is the favourite to win. But obviously, since then, Sam Ryder with Spaceman's been released for the UK. So now, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not that biased. No, in all seriousness, the song quality alone really would be enough to say, yeah, this is a potential winner. But you mix that in with the performance and even the fact that there's a lot of male solo ballads now. Sweden, you picked a good year to send a female artist because your song is going to stand out because of that. And I think especially, I think it feels like in some ways it's the most one of the most Eurovision ready packages we have in the contest already. Like there's not much you really need to do with the staging here. Obviously you've got to adapt it because the Turin stage is not the same as the Melodifestivalen stage, but you could do a lot of things similar. And also in Turin, obviously they've got the arches, like semicircle arches there already. So just try and incorporate those in with the spinning circle. And Sweden definitely have the potential to win the contest for I believe this will be the third time in 11 years. So if you count, I mean, yes, it would be 11 editions, but I guess 10 years because 2012 would have been we're talking 2012, 2015, and then if this were to be 2022, then I mean, I see what you're saying. And it's interesting that you talk about the staging too, because when we saw this in the semifinal, the staging was the one aspect of it that I wasn't 100% sold on. I just felt like the use of the circle, it looked like kind of like a spare a piece of gear, like when they have reflectors that you can kind of fold them and pack them up. That's what it looked like to me, and it looked a little bit cheap, but I feel like a lot of very simple details were added to make sure that the circle was more colorful. It didn't have because there was one moment in the semifinal where you're getting the green light, but then the white light was shining on it quite a bit, so it was taking away the proper color of it. And then we saw a lot more of the flashing lights around the arena, which really added to that live concert feel. And I thought that was really, really excellent. Let's keep going to some comments. We see Adam here saying, respect to Anders. His live performance was amazing, but I'm so glad Cornelia won. And, I do want to say as well that, like, firstly, I do really admire the story behind Anders' song, and I think that it is great to see someone who has overcome a personal struggle, and stage fright is something that a lot of people suffer from, and it's something that affects them for their entire lives. So I think that it was really great to see him have his moment. He did come second overall in the end, so I think that's great for him. Twan, your thoughts about Anders?
I am going to go against the fandom a bit because I quite like this song, to be honest. I didn't expect to like it, but I feel like it's very anthemic in the chorus, and that's what I like about it. And obviously, the story behind him is very inspirational and very... I didn't notice him having stage fright at all, so he did that very well. And I just really liked it. I wouldn't have minded this winning. Obviously, I prefer Cornelia, but I wouldn't have minded Anders winning, to be honest.
And how about you, Harry? How did you feel about Anders?
I mean, look, Anders himself, I love his voice. I admire his story. But I wouldn't have wanted this to win simply because it feels like a story would have won rather than a song. Because if you look at the overall package, if you take the story element out of Anders Berg, it's quite a basic song. I feel like if you gave this to literally anyone else that took part tonight, it would not do nearly as well. And while the staging is very beautiful, in its base sense, it's a man singing with an LED background and not much else. So I think compared to other stagings where it felt a bit more full, I would have been a bit underwhelmed and slightly frustrated if this had won. But coming second, amazing story for him, and he should be very proud of how he performed.
Certainly, yeah, and I would say that although I certainly would have had my doubts if this were to go to Eurovision in the end, like I would have been considerably more concerned for Sweden's qualification than I have been in the past. But I do think that there are certain qualities that really resonated with the audience aside from the story, because it is a really anthemic, feel-good song, and especially the fact that he isn't a pop star, right? He's kind of a big, stocky guy who's singing this really uplifting song, and I can see why people would respond to that, putting all the context behind. But definitely a great result. I'm glad that he certainly got his moments on the podium. Let's see what some of you are saying. Jamie saying, UK here, sad that Clara didn't run to the hills. It was a bop. Yeah, so Clara finished. We have the score here. Clara, in the end, finished in sixth. Yeah, I mean, that's not too bad. Maybe, I guess because she was a favorite for some people, they were expecting a little bit better. But, I mean,
I will admit I was quite surprised because I thought she was going to end second or third.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about that, Harry?
I mean, she got third with the televote, which was kind of, considering the competition, I would say half expected, half deserved. But when I saw she came like 10th with the juries, and I was really surprised. The only thing that maybe pushed it down with the juries is we noticed this in Heat 4 and we've noticed it tonight. She can't quite hit the high notes in the chorus. She does sort of have to duck out of them slightly. And she did sing them in a lower pitch tonight, which I think was better than trying to hit them and failing. Probably opening the show didn't help her, because I can't remember the last time an opener has actually done that well in Sweden. But I was definitely, the shock of the night for me was seeing her solo with the juries, because I thought, it's popular obviously with Spotify and streams like that, but I thought this was a really quality song.
Fair enough. I think in my case it does seem quite typical of a Melfest song, at least. But you mentioned the fact that she improved her vocals from the semifinal, and I think that definitely showed. I mean, there were a lot of other songs competing for those jury points. I would say some of the ballads that we saw did pretty well. One top jury score that I was not expecting was that for Theo's for Somme de Ville. I'm really glad that he did, because as we said in our video earlier this week, it didn't seem like the song that he was bringing was really about winning. It was more so about, having his introduction to the Melfest audience, because he's 16 years old and, like really, really at the beginning of his career. But it was nice to see that he got the top score for at least one jury. Beckett Fitz saying better thank the international juries. Shout to this person who I can never say your name. Harry is a god, according to Arcadia.
Let's screenshot this. No, okay.
We'll come back to it. ESC Matt Gaga, nice to see you again. Oh, you think that bigger than the universe was robbed? That's interesting. Hello to Alexandros. There have been a lot of comments coming in, so I am trying to catch up on them all. Jamie saying Anders looked like he had no idea how did this happen when he was in the lead. I mean, I don't think he would have been that surprised. Probably thankful, at least. Michael Forbes saying Anders was a good singer, but the song was not strong enough to win ESC. Adam Tiedemann saying when Cornelia entered Swedish Idol, Anders was one of the judges, and he didn't like Cornelia's audition, and now he beat him at Melfest. I have heard about this, which is
that.
that's very. Well. It's a very interesting, like, revenge story, right? I don't think that's actually how they feel on a personal level. Maybe
No.
I'm sure that some tabloid is already all over that, being like, Anders gone home in a fit or whatever, something like that.
Well, Stu, did you not see as Cornelia walked past Anders? He laughed and pointed in his face. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
A lot of people agreeing that Clara was robbed by the juries. Nert saying about Anders, he's very famous in Sweden, and everybody likes him. Jessica saying, I'm sad to see that Anna Bergendahl was at the bottom, but very happy to see Cornelia at the top.
I totally agree.
I do agree as well. I think that the thing that I really like about Anna is that all of her songs have class. Even if they have those Melfest flavors of like Schlager, it still feels like, you know, elegant. It's not going for super crazy things that we see with some of the other entries that are really attention grabbing. Maybe that speaks to some of the score, but I would have definitely liked to see certainly a higher jury score for her. It was really just the as far as getting the top marks, it was just the Spanish jury that gave her 10 points, and then she got a few like 1s and 2s, I think. But Twan, tell me your thoughts on Anna.
I love Anna's songs. I love all her songs. I've loved her since This Is My Life in 2010, obviously. And I also love this one. I thought she would do better, but given that she went through the semi-final round, I'm very happy that she got to the final because she deserves it.
Yeah, she definitely deserves her spot in the final. How about you, Harry?
Yeah, I mean, Anna's song this year wasn't necessarily to my taste. I really loved Kingdom Come from 2020, but I think maybe this was my personal expectations. I maybe expected a little bit more. Definitely were worthy of a final spot, though. I was shocked how this did so poorly with the jury, because as you said, it got 10 points with the Spanish jury. It only got 1 point from all the others combined. So, especially considering I thought this was definitely tailored to more juries than televotes, this definitely wouldn't have been my last place. But I can sort of see why, because I think it was a second chance round or semi-final one, and performing third, it might have got a bit lost in the shuffle, especially considering it had Fields and John Lundvik either side, which both did quite well with the jury.
Yeah, running order could have definitely played a factor in that. Ellen asking, why do you think everyone is barefoot? It seems like whenever somebody is barefoot, it becomes a talking point, and I don't know what that says about people's minds. But I mean, one thing that I've heard, just saying, is people always want to talk about feet. One thing that I've heard from some performers and musicians is that sometimes they're recommended to go and perform barefoot because it makes them feel at home. You know, because when you're walking around at home, I know in some cultures they wear shoes all the time, but at least when I'm at home, like, you know, I'm at my most comfortable when I don't have anything on my feet. So I don't know. It's just let them be barefoot. Why not? Loreen was barefoot. Emily DeForest was barefoot. Everything's fine. Any more? Can you elaborate more on barefootedness?
I think if you've got, I mean, I think it's more if you've got sort of a contemporary style song, it more suits it. Like if Anders was barefoot, I think that would not necessarily suit the song. But yeah, I think it works more. I will say we've got a great quote from you now, Stu. I feel most comfortable when I'm wearing nothing on my feet. What a quote.
Hey, I mean, other than when you're outside, why do they got to be covered? Right?
No. It's correct. It's correct.
Yeah, exactly.
It feels like something philosophical you would say.
You're giving me way too much credit. Mr. Giancana saying Anna already had her best 2 songs in Mellow earlier. Yeah, I think the consensus was that this was not her strongest song when compared to the other ones. So maybe that also speaks to why she didn't really make too many waves. But again, I do really respect her class and her style, certainly. Michael Forbes saying, I expected Anna to come higher with the juries. I think she came last with them. She did, yeah. For a while, she had 0 jury points, which was criminal. And Tona scored higher using serious, heavy use of backing vocals to hide her weak vocals at one point. We kind of talked about this. Like, Tona is not the kind of vocalist that you would see kind of around her performing some of the other songs. But Twan, I understand that you really liked her performance.
I loved her performance, and I think her vocals were great. The entire package is amazing, and I think it was winner worthy. and I'm so glad that she ended 5th. I think that's better than anyone had ever expected. So
That's true. Yeah, I don't think I certainly wouldn't have expected. I think especially because she has quite a big social media following. Looking really yellow here.
I mean,
there we go, that's a bit better.
She was one of the 2 I predicted correctly. I predicted Cornelia to win, and I predicted her 5th. So
okay. Well, you have your way with predictions certainly. But Harry, how did you feel about Tona?
I would definitely say out of the ones that got through under chance, or is it semi-finals they're calling them this year, I believe.
Yeah.
Tona was the one that I would say, if any of them had a chance of winning, that was the one that I actually thought could do it, because I did think, like Anders, there could be a good amount of televote support. The song, I quite like the anthemic feel. Is it Tona or Ton? Sorry.
I say Tona. Or Tona.
Tona. Definitely improved from the heat performance. I think the dress is much better, as a side note. The red one compared to what she wore in the heat. I think she definitely improved in terms of energy, because I felt the heat performance was lacking a little bit. But this one definitely improved. I will agree that she doesn't necessarily have the strongest vocals in the contest. And if this had gone on to win, less so compared to Anders, but it would have been a slight more, you're voting for the story rather than the song. Mm-hmm. But I was happy to see that she did quite well.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially the fact that she is the first trans artist to take to the Melfest stage. I think it's great that she had made it to the final so that she could get that additional exposure. And I think the best possible outcome from that would be if there are, young trans artists who may have doubted their gender identity as being, something that would get in the way of their dreams in the music industry, that they see her, much like we've seen for other Eurovision artists like Dana International, or even, we've had a lot of recent artists talk about Conchita Wurst. Well, right when you need the name, you don't have it. And I know that Conchita is not trans, but obviously she had a genderqueer appearance to her because of her drag. And we have heard, I think even Bilal Hassani and Montaigne have credited her as a really big inspiration for them to see themselves on the Eurovision stage. So if Tona has that quality for artists in Sweden, then I think that's a fantastic thing. Lucy asking, do you think Sweden will win Eurovision 2022? I think it's overrated, but lots of people are so sure she will win Eurovision, but there are better songs than Hold Me Closer for me. So we did kind of talk about our ideas about the winning potential. I mean, the thing is, it's not as if we have a shortage of good songs. I don't think it's quite as competitive as last year, knowing that there are still a handful that are undecided yet. But I see this as certainly a contender for top 3, like bare minimum. I think especially the fact that people were so adamant about this being the choice for Sweden, I think that says something. And we've also talked a lot about how we feel like this is so different for Melfest. I would say that this is also pretty different for Eurovision too. And it isn't to say that it's like reinventing the wheel, but we don't really get songs that have this kind of balance between, kind of a rocker chick performance, but then also like heartfelt with strings, and then having like a synth base to it. So I see this as being a certain contender, definitely not like guaranteed to win, but I would definitely support a Swedish win this year. Svan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said, and also I think we know that Sweden will not change that much about the performance. Performances are mostly the same from Melodifestivalen to Eurovision. Mm-hmm. There might be a few little changes, but the performance has already been perfected enough to be of Eurovision winner quality. So I think she's just got the entire package set now.
Yeah, and that's also an important thing to consider too, because with some of the other contenders, whether they were selected through a national selection or if they were internally selected and we haven't seen anything of how it's going to look like on stage, this one we have a pretty solid idea of what it's going to look like. I mean, they might decide to do something different and change certain aspects of it, but what we've seen from Sweden in the most recent years is that they're pretty consistent with kind of, I wouldn't say copy and paste, but it's conceptually the same idea that is adapted for the Eurovision stage. How about you, Harry?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, I definitely think this is in consideration for winner. Before tonight, I had two potential winners. I had Italy and Ukraine, and Sweden is on par with those as potential top winners, top three. If this doesn't get top five as the bare minimum, something has gone seriously wrong.
Yeah, I mean, obviously anything can happen. Like if some of those other contenders that we're seeing right now really step things up, then who knows? I mean, to me, this is a very interesting year because there seems to be so many divisive entries. It's like the most atypical Eurovision we've seen in a while. And I know that a lot of people are kind of moaning how it's like, you know, not a strong year, but I think it's not really that. It's just that we're seeing a lot of entries that are not typical for Eurovision, including this one. So I don't know. It's going to be very exciting. Obviously, we still have another 2 months to go before any of that comes to conclusion.
I think it's also the fact that there isn't like a real clear winner at the moment. Like there's like 5, 6 potential winners for the top, but there isn't like one that you say, oh yeah, winner.
Yeah, and you could have said the same thing about last year, but I think last year there were a lot more bops. There was a lot of I don't know, like reliving the classic approaches for Eurovision entries, and there was Flow Rider, so that that had an effect on how people viewed certain contenders. But yeah, I think, you know, this is certainly one to keep an eye on. Let's see if somebody else pulls out some surprises, because, you know, obviously now this year, one thing that we haven't had for a while are the pre-parties. So we will see live performances earlier than we have for the last, I mean, certainly last year, and then 2020 was canceled. That's going to change certain people's opinions on songs. And then I think that we'll have a better idea of how those qualifications go towards the end. I think one thing we can say for sure is that this is qualifying.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, if we feel this way now, then to say that I couldn't see any way that this doesn't qualify.
If this isn't qualifying, I will eat my shoe live on the live stream. This has.
Yeah, you heard it here.
If I'm the Italian host, just don't even bother announcing this. Just put it in the graphic already. Just just announce the other 9. Just don't.
If there is one song that I'm 100% sure on qualifying, it's this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, I mean, and you could have said that about Sweden in many years before, but this time I think like it's nice because people feel good about that. And other times where the entry was, you know, as we touched upon, because it seemed quite polished and perfect, it wasn't winning over people on a personal level. This one certainly seems to be reaching people at that level. So people will be excited. It won't just be like, oh yeah, Sweden, you know. Which I want to clear for the record that hasn't always been me. I would say that I love the Mamas, and I'm still so heartbroken that they never made it to the Eurovision stage to represent themselves. And they will. I certainly hope so. And the very first time that I watched Eurovision in 2018, when I had seen no semifinals or national selections or had learned anything about the lead up, I really liked Benjamin Ingrosso, and I thought that his song was really cool. On subsequent watches, I'm not that big on the performance, but I was not. I'm not in this camp of like, yeah, Sweden, you know.
I mean, in 2018, it says a lot that somehow the UK got more televotes than Sweden that year. It says a lot.
Especially after what happened in 20. Well, I don't know. Let's not go down that road. It's 4 years ago.
Let's not speculate.
Felicia saying, as a Swede, Melodifestivalen is a tough competition, so the performances are perfected and we don't really change it. Maybe some lights and clothes, but never a drastic change.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, when you, as this person has said, when you go through that like extensive selection, because it is so long, it is such a it's a selection that has a really high budget too, so they are really you know, investing not only in Melodifestivalen but in Eurovision as well, because when, like, you know, it that way, when your selection ends just before the deadline, it's not like you're scrambling to come up with how the hell are we going to do this in Turin, right? So yeah, TLC saying, I think this year we have many good songs at Eurovision, but none of them stands out. Also, there are not many bad songs, which is good. Thoughts on that? Harry, you're kind of doing this thing?
I have a few.
Okay.
I think the problem is I'm never a massive fan of like, if there's a polarizing song, I'm usually on the side that it's not very good. So take that how you will. Look at the list of songs, and you can probably predict which ones are near the bottom of my ranking.
Okay. And you, Twan?
This year I have like a lot of songs that I love, and then some songs that I like, and then there are not really any songs that I'm like, this is okay. And then there are songs that I quite a lot, I have to admit, that I don't like at all. Like I will admit that this year there are more songs that I do not like than in most years. Most years I have about 4, 5, 6, but this year's there's about 10.
10
So
that you don't like?
yeah, that's a bit
Wow.
more than usual. I will not go into which they are because some people will not like me.
We want to keep the viewers, Twan.
But yeah, I will admit that there's more songs that I don't like this year than in usual years.
So for me, I would say that so far there haven't been too many songs that I absolutely love. There have been more now, and especially like in the recent weeks of national selections and announcements. And this one, Hold Me Closer, is definitely going to be one of those as well. There are more songs that I'm either like, I like, and I also like the fact that they're different. But they're not necessarily songs that I would choose to listen to. And then there aren't too many songs that I like dislike. It's just more so it's really the same thing. It's like I wouldn't choose to listen to that. Yeah, I don't know. And it's interesting because it's a lot of the divisive entries that I tend to like more than the other ones, but obviously there's a lot of those this year. And all I'll do is a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and people will know what I'm talking about. Yeah, divisive for sure. Adam Tiedman saying, I could see Australia winning this year. Australia's got a very powerful ballad, and I mean, we were talking about songs with stories, and I learned recently that the context of Not the Same is actually about the fact that Sheldon has Asperger's, and I thought that was very interesting, and I had assumed it had other meanings to it, but it'll be interesting to see if I think that's going to be one that makes an impact, and I think it could, with all aspects executed in the right way, that could get into the top 10. I think. Yeah, and Harry, we talked about Australia decides as well, and I think that Sheldon was one of your favorites.
Yeah, all I'll say is in this national final season, there have been 2 winner announcements where I have got up on my seat and jumped up celebrating. One was tonight, and the other was Australia decides.
All right. Rye Bailey says the UK will be top 10 this year, he thinks. I like the optimism. And it has been nice to see that people are confident in the UK's entry. Not like it's the first time that's happened, and then the results say otherwise, but it's still nice to be optimistic at this point, I would say.
Let me have hope.
Well, and then you're also part Australian, so you still have like a country to root for.
I've got Malta if they improve the staging as well.
Well,
or change the song.
Exactly, they might be changing the entire song. Yeah. Felicia saying, can we talk about Latvia's contribution to ESC? It's iconic. How do we feel? I think I know how Twan feels. How do we feel about Eat Your Salad?
I will say that this is one of the songs I previously talked about.
Okay. All right. Leave it there. And Harry?
It's not that I like the song, but I think this would... the weird thing is, I really enjoy the instrumental of this song. I think it's a very enjoyable instrumental, but the lyrics I can't really stand. And I think sometimes national final winners are hindered by guilty by comparison. And when you had a runner-up as strong as Aminata and I'd say overall was more popular and would likely do better in Eurovision, that sometimes hinders thoughts on the winner itself.
Yeah, interesting. All I'll say is that I see this as Eurovision's blurred lines, where song is funky as hell, context is a little concerning, and let's just leave it at that. But it does have a lot of fans. That's That's for sure. So we have quite a few other selections, well, 2 other selections for tonight, but they are finals. So we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Eurovoxx, because even though we are at the end of the national selection season, we of course have pre-parties after that, and then the big show in May. And we would love for you to keep chatting with us, to join our other live chats. We do have one. I don't know if Song of the Captain has ended yet, but it should be ending soon.
I don't think it has.
Okay, so that one will be ending soon, and Dominic will be back to chat with you guys about that. And then I'll be back later for the end of Festival de Canção. And we hope that some of you are tuning into those as well, because I'm big fans of both those shows. But anyway, please reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Good luck to Sweden this year. Let's see if those high expectations will be met. And we will see you all in the next video. Take care.